Hi and welcome everyone. I am Daniel Russo and today I'm going to present our work carried out during the COVID-19 pandemic together with Paul Hanel from Essex University Department of Psychology, Serafina Altnickel and Nils van Berkel. The software engineering community never faced a lockdown in such a proportion like those caused by COVID-19. Well, this clearly rose a lot of questions regarding our software professionals. For this investigation, we had two main questions. The first one is whether or not the work distribution changes while working from home during the pandemic. Then the second one is whether those work activities are somehow related to well-being, productivity, and other psychological or social variables. This study is actually a spin-off of an empirical software engineering paper we recently published, where we found out the most relevant variables associated with well-being or productivity while working from home during a pandemic. We found out that actually the most relevant ones were stress, boredom, daily routines, need for autonomy, need for relatedness, need for competence, quality and quantity of social contacts outside work, and eventually distractions at home. In this study, we looked for generalizable results and therefore we performed a sample study. First problem with a sample study is where to find your sample. Well, we actually used a sample already identified by a previous study of ours published on IEEE Transaction Software Engineering, presented also this year at ICSI. We excluded all people that were not working at the moment, that were not working from home, and so on and so forth. We performed an a priori power analysis to be sure that our study weren't underpowered, and the result was that we gathered eventually 192 participants. Now, we also wanted to see the fluctuations during the lockdown, and for this reason we used a longitudinal design where the first wave was during the middle of the first lockdown and the second wave was towards the end of the second lockdown. For gathering our data, we used an academic crowdsourcing platform named Prolific, which has a number of advantages in terms of ethics and self-selection bias. To answer the first question, we used the work by Meyer et al. As a benchmark for the typical working day. Similarly, we also used the very same tasks. And here you actually can find the distribution of the first two waves at time 1 and at time 2. Now, here already we can see that more or less the activities look actually quite similar during the pandemic compared to a typical office day. In addition to our visual inspection of our task distribution, we also performed a number of T-tests. The first thing to mention is that in order to avoid false positive, considering the high number of variables involved in the study, we choose a rather conservative alpha level of 0.003. Anyway, if we see right now at the different activities and if we compare them with the distribution by Meyer et al. With our two waves, we actually see that actually they all differ significantly from our benchmark value. However, more or less we see that especially the order is the same. So this suggests that while there are some deviations, the overall order of tasks remains actually stable. After that, we question ourselves how actually change the distribution during the pandemic, or at least during the first lockdown. And here we can see, again, considering our conservative alpha level, that actually only two variables are significant, in particular breaks and networking activities. So breaks seems to be definitely reduced from time 1 and time 2, so showing developers taking less breaks compared to the start of a pandemic, and also a decrease of networking activity, suggesting a higher degree of isolation. To answer our second research question, we performed also a correlation of activities. Now, the first thing to mention here that we had overall 195 correlations, and again, in order to avoid false positives, we adjusted our alpha level to 0.0005. Accordingly, the Pearson correlation had to be greater than 0.25. Here, the only correlation which is above 0.25 is the correlation between breaks and productivity, which per se isn't a huge discovery. Interestingly, we found this relation only at time 1 and not at time 2. Now, our research has four main implications. The first one regards the work activity distribution while working from home. So, although our results are different compared to Myers et al., however, if we look at the overall ranking among work activities, they actually are unchanged. So the significant time reduction of meetings suggests that online meetings are more time efficient compared to physical ones. Second, about the distribution of working tasks. So we have actually observed a very high correlation of group averages of time 1 and time 2, suggesting a regular work activity distribution during the pandemic, which is actually absolutely comparable to an office day. Third one, the effect on well-being and productivity. So with the only exception of the relation between productivity and breaks at time 1, the time software engineering spent on individual tasks while working from home does not affect their productivity or well-being. Fourth, and probably most important point about the influence of psychological social variables. And we actually see an absence, basically, of correlation between any activity and variables. Based on this assumption, we could actually not associate any indicator of burnout or motivational disengagement with activities performed while working from home. This has the very relevant implication that actually working from home is per se not a burden for software engineers. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you would like to read the paper, please download it at this QR code. Also, if you are interested in the follow-up studies we are already carrying out to better understand the pandemic transformation, please have a look at my website or just write me an email. Thank you again and have a great day. Ciao!
Hello, we're back again. I saw all your applause. It was a pretty spectacular presentation, right? And now you get to shoot your questions. So please let us know your questions in the chat, and then I'll be happy to pass them on to Daniel. Thank you so much for coming. You got some beautiful pictures there in the background. I love all the colors.
Thank you so much. You're mine, actually.
Oh, very nice. Okay.
Yes.
Cool. We have a first question coming in by Lawrence. How did you recruit the subjects via Prolific? Are there so many software developers on that platform?
Yeah, great question. Thank you so much. Actually, you have to do multiple screening processes. So Prolific already provides you some preset screening processes. And then anyway, the recommendation is to provide some additional screening questions in order to be sure that actually participants are also software developers. This is a very important issue to ensure the quality of your data.
Cool. Thank you. And then Alex is asking, first he says, great job. And then did you distinguish between specific subpopulations in your study according to gender, age, and country, as lockdown rules were and are different in different countries, so the impact might also be different?
Yeah. Thank you so much. Actually, to address this question, I would suggest you to go and look to the empirical software engineering paper I mentioned, where we did all those comparisons. In terms of gender, we didn't see any significant difference. In terms of country, neither. So there was only one very slight difference between UK and US participants, showing that basically Americans have more materialistic motivations compared to Europeans.
Okay. Did you address age? That was the only one.
Yes. We address age, children, households, salary, every possible, and also in that specific case, no difference, no significant one.
Okay, all right. And then Peggy's asking, you mentioned you're following up with, so I think Lavinia's question is covered with that because it was also about the demographics. And then you mentioned you're following up with more studies. Do you have some hints from more recent studies that breaks and networking are happening more now?
Okay, so we are running right now at least two studies. So the first one is actually a longitudinal study on actually over the whole lockdown period, and so we will finish with the last one in a couple of weeks. And we also provided a cross-sectional study to follow up this specific investigation. And well, in terms of outcome, we didn't really see a lot of different findings compared to those that have been observed before. We definitely see a relative adaptation of developers to the lockdown, and overall a stable, in some cases also slightly increasing well-being. Yeah, I mean, we have clearly a lot of insight, and I just don't want to make a shopping list. So yeah.
Okay, all right. Ita is asking, I'm wondering whether software engineers are different to other professions. So we haven't changed that much by working from home. Is that also the case for other professions?
Yeah. Again, wonderful question. I believe it is true. However, I have no data to confirm that, because we explicitly selected software engineers. It would have been clearly also interesting to survey, let's say, other professional, other knowledge workers to see if there is a difference. But just my gut feeling is that probably the difference is not that much. Anyway, in that specific paper, we addressed also typical software engineering tasks, and I mean, these are, I suppose, clearly different compared to knowledge worker in finance or whatever.
Okay, thank you. And then Colin has another question. How much of the statistical significance do you think was due to the sudden change? I'm wondering what the variance is for a software organization that is 100% WFH compared to a non-WFH organization before and after the pandemic shifting to WFH.
Okay, very nice question. Thank you for that. As actually, we used a very conservative alpha threshold. In any case, because we dealt with a lot of variables a lot of correlations, and in order to avoid type 2 error, we had anyway a very conservative alpha level. Regarding organizations that work from home compared to not working from home, this is actually a very interesting question that unfortunately I have actually no data and therefore no answer to it, but it's definitely worth investigating.
Mm-hmm. Good. Thank you. So I'm really curious about the follow-up, because in myself, I have certainly perceived like the ups and downs during the pandemic of like first surprise to settling into something to then new development, settling into something to, oh my God, is this going to be over at some point, to being okay with it again. And so I'm really curious what the long-term follow-up is gonna show here and how that's gonna change.
Again, so my perspective on that is rather positive in a sense that professionals actually are adapting fairly well to this specific situation. We also one of the studies we ran is we asked also professionals if they were looking to go back to office and how basically after the pandemic the future will look like. And most of them actually would love to have a more hybrid way of working with only a few days in the office for meetings mostly.
Yeah.
And to work anyway most of the time from home.
So I guess we've made a case now that can definitely work, and so work models may change.
Absolutely, and I think that this specific research field is new and extremely interesting because we will have years to come. So the impact in our profession will be really huge. And we know right now too little about, especially regarding productivity and well-being of professionals working from home, right? So I mean, we have to support them and we have to find out how. So do more empirical studies, work on theories that are actually able to explain certain relations. Luckily, especially the organizational psychology community provided some insights from people working from home, not during a pandemic, clearly, where we can infer some interesting insights. But I mean, a lot of work is needed here. Absolutely agree.
Yeah. Last question here in the chat, with the last minute of our Q&A. Sorry, second to last. Now we got to be quick. So, Karianne said, I would be interested, related to Ita's question, if this holds for other professionals within the software development process, but not specifically the software engineers, so product owners and designers.
Okay, yeah. Well, again, so we ran a number of multi-group analyses. We looked into heterogeneity, and we couldn't really found. I mean, we found that the population per se is fairly homogeneous.
Okay, yeah. And then last question by Alex. Do you think one of the variables might be the domain? So it's somebody working on software for travel may be differently affected than software for hospitals, for example?
To be honest, I don't know. And yeah, and if you want, just meet me in there.
Hello, everyone.